Did you see it? That speech that Rishi Sunak gave outside 10 Downing Street a short time ago. Yeah, I did. I did as well. And all I can say in response to that, as speeches go, that's got to be the biggest, most eye-watering load of wet dribble I've ever had the misfortune to sit and listen to. But when you see the Prime Minister of our great country is about to make an unexpected speech, your ears prick up and you think, what's going on next? He's either going to resign or he's going to call a general election. Nothing so grandiose. If you believe that there's probably 10 minutes of your life you'll never get back again, subscribe to the channel, because I certainly think like that. Now, I think the whole thing was brought about by the events of today, the by-election results in Rochdale, namely George Galloway. George Galloway, as we know, was returned as the MP for Rochdale. George Galloway, by the way, campaigned and won that election on the back of support for something other than this country of ours. It just shows you what a worrisome state of affairs there is out there. Now, the two things I took from this, I think that Rishi Sunak now knows, if he didn't before, without a shadow of a doubt, the Tories are finished. They're guaranteed absolutely to lose the next general election. And in fact, they're in such a bad, disenfranchised space that it could highly be probable that they could be wiped from existence and only have a handful of seats. I don't know if anyone's considered that. And the other thing as well, I think that the government has lost control of the narrative. Therefore, they've lost control of the country. We no longer believe that we are a tolerant, liberal country, as they're trying to make us out to be. And we have little pockets of incidents, little pockets of problems going on all over the place. The problem is, of course, with a lot of these politicians, they can't see past the Westminster bubble. So anything that goes on in the halls of Westminster, anything from a political point of view, they will react to. And that's what I see this as this evening. Now what happens? He comes out and he says, oh, we've got to be tolerant. We've got to be liberal, and we've got to accept one another for what we are. We have to accept that we all come from different backgrounds, and we should thrive, and we should get on, and we should be harmonic in our interactions with each other. Well, unfortunately, folks, as we found out, it doesn't quite work like that, does it? In the grand scheme of things in this country of ours, we've seen these marches through the streets of London. We've seen the trouble that have been caused. We've seen in Rochdale, you know, I did a video earlier. I criticised the Reform candidate, but at the end of the day, he didn't really have a fair crack at the whip, did he? He was driven out of there by parties we know full well who they are. One of the biggest problems, and I may get called racist for that, or far right. That's another thing, far right. They had to mention that old chestnut, didn't they? I don't think there's been anywhere near the kind of response to this, if anything, that you would consider far right. There's certain people which are just running riot in this country, and they're unchecked. Now, we have vast wafts of people coming into this country unchecked. You look at Dover, for one thing. We don't know who they are, where they're going, where they've come from, what their intentions are. And, you know, I did a video earlier on about, I believe we're all human. That I do believe. But when you get different groups of people, different demographics coming from here, there, and everywhere, and expect them all to obey the rules of the place where they come to, and they decide they don't want to or will not, then you're asking for trouble. And unfortunately, the response to that trouble must be a quick ticket out of this country. And they're not doing it. They're not doing it. They've allowed them to get to a point where they can become emboldened. They can become aggressive and they can become domineering to the point even our own MPs are scared to make a decision in case it looks bad at the voting booth, and they start crying for their personal safety. Now, Rishi takes the brunt of this. This government takes the brunt of this. But if you look over the last 20 or 30 years, even more so, there have been a series of decisions, a series of policy decisions they've led to this point. They have. And now we are in a whole world of trouble. That tonight was pathetic, in my view. Let me know what you think. I've got another video of mine there if you want to see it. And I'm going to go now and finish recording tomorrow's stuff. Have a good evening. Toodaloo.